Okay, my beautiful friends, here we go. It is Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. People, it's starting again. What am I talking about? A global bond market sell-off. We have yields rising all over the place. The U.S. dollar this morning, or the relative strength of the dollar, up over 1.5%. What are we seeing? Again, it's vast instability in the global debt market. And the biggest issue here is liquidity. You all know this. I've been covering this to the point of nauseum for the longest time here. Let me explain this to you real quick. If you're new here, what we are witnessing is really a very extremely unique situation. Central banks around the world are in the middle of a rate hike extravaganza here, and they're hiking into a global economy that is cratering, and it's destroying people. Now, that's what it's meant to do. Again, what you're not going to hear is what we're witnessing is a currency crisis on an epic scale. It has nothing whatsoever to do with rates. Okay, but central banks, Bank of England just raised 75 basis points. The Federal Reserve just raised the benchmark again, 75 basis points here. And they're selling this lie via the propaganda ministry like there's no tomorrow. And that's what they're assuring. Central banks are assuring that there is no tomorrow. I mean, look, this is Economics 101. I'm just going to cover it again real quick here. Central banks raise rates to crush demand, henceforth crush the economy. It's not meant to lower inflation. As a matter of fact, we heard from the Federal Reserve yesterday, and right out of its mouth, it being Jay Powell, Christine Lagarde echoed the same thing, that we are going to see inflation continue to rise. Even though these freaking criminal organizations from hell, okay, continue to raise rates month after month after month, inflation is not stopping. It's going to go higher, and it's going much higher, but they won't tell you that because it's really at its core a currency crisis, a currency crisis, a currency crisis. I'm going to keep saying that because that's what it is. People, nobody understands this more than you. I have been saying it for years that central banks are in a race to the bottom. They are all determined to kill their currencies, to suck the purchasing power right out of their currencies. I mean, do you think I'm making this up? Look around you here. You see inflation surging all over the place. Let me take a step further back here. Central banks, what they have done here since the last meltdown of the stock market, what did they do? They introduced, quantitative easing, meaning just buying it all, buying all the debt, inflating the global money supply system. Did they really honestly think that there was not going to be a price to pay for that? Sure, it's been fantastic. They reinflate a freaking real estate bubble, a housing bubble. They reinflate a stock market bubble. But on the back of that, we're paying the price for it. But who is going to hold the central banks to account? Nobody. Nobody. Not a single politician, the mainstream media. The only people holding the Fed to account, or any central bank, is you and me. It's such a sick, twisted, freaking, honestly, it's a freak show on an epic scale, but you can count on a few things happening here. Central banks are going to continue to sell the lie that this is a rate problem. Central banks are going to continue to raise rates, and all they're doing, again, is crushing demand, crushing the global economy here, and then try to tell you that we're not going into recession and everything is just going to be completely fine. Absolutely not. People, we are already in something that is yet to be defined. It's way, way worse than a recession here. And despite the fact that they're fist feeding us bullshit with regard to the economic numbers, are all fake. They're all fake. They're all propaganda. We got this morning here 217,000 new first-time unemployment claims for last week, a number better than expected. Okay, lovely and fantastic, but look, I don't believe any of this stuff that they're saying, and we already understand that major institutions that employ thousands and thousands and thousands of people are laying people off like there's no tomorrow. Again, this is being assured by central banks who are determined to crush the economy, to fulfill their end game, to become the lenders and buyers of last resort, to eliminate an entire class of people on a worldwide scale. And nobody besides you and I really seem to care about this. I don't know. Look, I guess it's just, I want people to realize what's happening to them. I really do, but they don't. See, you, me, we get it. We realize what's happening, and there's just so few of us. It's all the distractions and deceptions. If, for example, we had a real leader come out, explain to people what's happening here, could you imagine if President Bidenstein, mommy man, were to say, hey, people, the issue here is that we're in a currency crisis, and this is not a rate problem, but central banks are selling you a lie. Could you imagine that? No president will call out the central bank. No world leader will call out their central bank because the central banks run the entire show. I wish we had somebody out here. Look, I don't have a big enough voice out here. I have 235,000 followers. I would need millions. I'm calling on people out here who have millions of people, like, I don't know, somebody with a big, big voice to get out here, pay attention to this blog, and start telling people the truth, that we're being lied to, we're being led to the slaughter on a massive scale. And that's the grand plan here. The grand plan by central banks is to bring the global economy and its people to its knees so they can fulfill their end game to be the lenders and buyers of last resort, so they can solidify their position as the one world government you and I have been warned about. And the games that they play, the trickery, the deceptions, the distractions here, is frankly unbelievable to me. But just look, you know what to do about all this. I've been telling you for the longest time, prepare for a worst case scenario, because they're assuring that's going to happen here. The whole issue, going back to the meltdown, the last meltdown in 2008, and how they inflated the money supply, created all this debt out of thin air. What's a central bank's product? Debt. The more debt they issue, the stronger they become. And the more this crushes people, and we're seeing the ramifications of that now. And it just bothers me to no end to see that it's just not going to stop. And out of their own mouths, they're explaining that inflation is going to continue to rise. And they can fix this. You see, that's the other lie that by omission that nobody is talking about. I want to know why it is that the mainstream channels, the financial channels, not one word, not one syllable about how if central banks just simply contracted the money supply, because that's the real issue here. We're in a currency crisis. If they just did that, if they would force banks to hold higher capital reserves, they could contract the money supply, and that would fix inflation. But no, all they're telling you and me and selling the lie is it's a rate problem. It's a currency crisis. Contract the money supply, and we could stop inflation in its tracks. I mean, doesn't it make sense to you? So central banks have inflated the money supply on a scale that's just unbelievable since the last crisis. But now they're not doing a damn thing to slow down inflating the money supply. Why? Because that's the goal. Central banks' goal is to continue to inflate. And I don't care what comes out of their mouth. It's all a lie. And it's not going to stop. They're going to continue to perpetuate the lie and tell more lies and bigger tales. And people are not going to know what's going on because no one's informing them. Like I said, this channel's not big enough. And I'm counting on all you, as always, to share this stuff. Anyway, so stock futures are lower right now. The 10-year yield has jumped 13 basis points overnight higher. The dollar over 1.5% higher. You got gold and silver getting hit right now bad on this rising relative strength of the dollar. Again, the deception is the dollar is strong. The dollar is strong. It's part of the deception here. The dollar, in relative terms, is strong. You all know that. It's going to remain strong and get stronger on a relative basis. But on absolute terms, the dollar is getting sucked dry of its purchasing power, along with every single other central bank issued note. Do you really honestly believe this is by accident, people? You know, my best friend in the world just passed away at Hull. You all know that. I got really emotional about that here, and it was a little too much. I want to apologize for that, but I just got the news at that moment, and it hit me so hard. Anyway, he knew what was going on. This was a sharp guy, and he would follow what's happening. And even he knew at 99 years old what was going on. He didn't like what he was seeing here. And he felt like our country and the world was on a very dangerous path. And he saw more wars, expanding wars, and maybe even a global war, which this man fought. People don't learn. That's what he always told me. People don't learn from the past. And he would say, people need to remember these things, like the December 7th, 1941 surprise attack. Let me tell you something. Ed knew that was a setup too. He said they knew what was going to happen. They knew it. They all knew it. And they allowed it to happen like they always do. Anyway. People, look, I'm going to let you all go. Ponder the things that's going on here. And I'm going to ask you to get this stuff out. Share it, man. The lie here of that this is a rate problem, it's just not going to stop. Inflation is going to get much, much worse as the economy continues to free fall. The propaganda, the misinformation, the fake data, you think that's going to stop? It's all controlled, everything here. And they're going out of their way to exert as much control on all of us as they possibly can. And that is going to finish itself in a grand finale and a meltdown of the financial system on the back of a currency crisis, which is the real problem. Anyway, that's it, people. You know the story. I hope you got something out of this video. Please, if you think this is worthwhile, I could use that thumbs up down here. Share it. Get it out there. Please comment. Anyway, I'll see all of you at the end of the day here. This guy here loves you a lot, and I mean that. That's all.